Welcome back to Too Much Future, your one-stop shop to learn everything you might want to know about the Fallout games.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's the intro to a different show, but it's...
I think it's right. I think that
right?
we are a repository of knowledge. Everything that we say is absolutely thorough and 100% accurate to all experiences.
That's right. You know, sometimes people get in the comments and they say, this wasn't accurate. You know, this isn't indicative of all human experience. And to that I say, no, it is you who are wrong.
Seems like you're not having all human experience. Sorry.
Right? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Seems like I have it, and you don't. You know, what did that bowling guy say? I am what you wish you were, or whatever.
That bowling guy?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? Like, the video of the guy who, like, does well at that bowling tournament. He's like, what you wish you were, I am.
I don't think I've seen this.
Hold on. I gotta find it. Hold on. Bowling guy. What you wish you were, I am. I think that's what he says. Oh, who do you think you are? I am, is what he yells. Okay, here you go. We're going to get a live rant. This is really normally for you can go to patreon.com to listen to the monthly show. The Range Touch Monthly, where this is like half of the show. Which is me giving Danny things to look at. But just watch this man.
Okay,
you ready?
Okay, I got it. Oh, here we go. All right. Whoa, he's got some hair. He's got some Polly Walnuts hair.
He does have Polly Walnuts hair, yeah. But he just gets in there. He also says, that's right, I did it first. Which is like also, but who do you think you are, I am? It's just, that's biblical, you know?
It is.
So that's what this show's about. You know, we're that guy. And we're having the optimal and truthful experience, the capital T truth of all human artful life. So, you know, if you're coming in here, you better come correct, is what I'm saying. As we talk about Fallout 4.
Oh, and we're doing some side quests.
We're doing some side quests. This is a hodgepodge, but, but you're not going to dodge it. I hear you trying to. You got to tell us what the plot is in Fallout 4 so far.
Okay, so... Fallout 4 begins before the Great War that defines all of the other games. We are a person living in that time with our husband, well, our spouse, I guess, in the general case, and an itty-bitty baby. Bombs fall, we go into a vault, we get cryogenically frozen. At some point along that line, the spouse is killed, baby is stolen by mysterious people. We escape the vault. We come out into post-apocalyptic Massachusetts. We bebop around a whole bunch, meet a bunch of kooky characters. But almost none of it matters because ultimately nothing actually moves forward until we learn about the Institute, which is a place, a mysterious like organization or outfit, operating in the Commonwealth that is replacing people with synths, which are robots that are essentially identical to humans in every way that matters. And it turns out that they are the ones who stole our son because they needed his genetic material in order to make these synths. And there's a whole bunch of factions who have different positions on this synth problem and what is to be done about it. But that doesn't really matter because we kind of like put all that stuff on hold to bebop back to a bunch of other little characters that we may have met in the meantime who have all these problems and issues that we're supposed to solve that may or may not be related to the grand plot of things.
Hey, something interesting happened to me during the middle of this episode.
Yeah?
Yeah, Deacon from the railroad.
He
just showed up and started shooting me with a gun.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was.
Huh.
I killed him. I slew him with a mighty blow of a melee weapon.
Well, I mean, maybe this will like fit into your story if it happened during a quest, but like, where did that happen?
In Sanctuary.
Huh.
Yeah, I was just I was waiting. I was sitting on a couch waiting to pass some time because it was dark. Yep. And he just started shooting me with like like the worst little gun.
Did you like look it up and see if that's like a scripted thing or if it's like a known bug? Like, did you do something that made Deacon hate you?
No, I didn't.
And I don't think you haven't met him at all. Have you?
No, I have met him. Because
okay.
I had to go into the church. The only thing I've done is because you reloaded after you started the like Brotherhood Eliminates the Underground quest or the railroad, and I didn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe that's a thing that happens is that like he gets sent off after you if you trip that flag.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But so I had that experience happen. But we both did, we did not speak to one another at all about what we were going to do in this episode. I did, like 6 or 7 things, some bigger, some smaller. So why don't you tell me a thing you did in this episode, Michael?
Well, I did many fewer things. I did 3 things specifically because my sort of method for previous episodes where we've done kind of the side quest mop-up has been just to open my Pip-Boy, look at all my active quests, and just like go through and close out the ones that are side quests. I discovered a very interesting thing while doing this time. Something like half of the side quests that I have are DLC. Same. Right?
It's like many of the other games where like if you have the DLC, it's just loaded in at the beginning.
Right. So I like was going through this list, like trying to, clean up these side quests, and I would start it and I would be like, what's going on here? Like, oh, this is DLC. Well, I'm not going to do this one yet because we traditionally do DLC at the end. So there was like a good, 30% of my time was spent just like chasing quests that I ended up not doing. And then I finished up a quest that I accidentally got halfway through and couldn't remember any of the starting materials for, to the extent that I didn't even realize it was part of a quest that I had already started. Around like the river running through Boston, the Charles River. On the side opposite Cambridge, like it's, the basic like location of like Beacon Street in the real world. I had been walking around there and these 2 people had appeared a long time ago, and they were doing some sort of like criminal deal, obviously. Like it's like this woman who's a ghoul and she's got some like hired guns with her. And then there's this other guy and they've got some sort of deal that's about to go down and they're waiting for someone. But they're also like, well, we can't wait forever, blah, 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 blah. Like, they're like, I'm supposed to intervene in this somehow. They have waited forever, though, because I first saw this happening way back early on in our playthrough and didn't even realize that it was connected to something that I had done earlier. But the funny thing is that this means that there have been these 2 people standing in the street for, I don't know, several in-game months or something at this point, just saying back and forth to each other, well, I don't have all day.
I'm waiting here.
Yeah.
Hey, Smooth Skin, I'm waiting.
But this is a quest called Diamond City Blues. And I accidentally started it way back when we first went to Diamond City. And I didn't talk about it then because I could tell it was a side quest. But then also in the long stream of time since then, I have deleted my original footage and I do not know what I did. I had to go to Wikipedia or the Fallout Wiki or whatever, the fandom wiki.
Mm-hmm.
And just like
Wikipedia.
The free encyclopedia that anyone can edit.
Yeah, Jimmy Wales was there and he said, here's the plot of Fallout 4.
Right. And now would you like this 10,000 word article on the construction of a lightsaber? And I was like, yes, absolutely, Jim.
Yep.
So what happened, I remembered vaguely kind of how this got started, which was I was poking around Diamond City, just exploring, and I went into like a bar there called the Colonial Tap House, and there was some sort of confrontation between a customer who came in and the guy at the bar. And I don't really remember what it was over. There was something about a wife. It felt very like noirish. I remember thinking that at the time because I'd also just maybe started some Nick Valentine stuff or just like rescued him or something. And that was like clearly, for at least part of the development of this game, something that they were like playing with was kind of these hard-boiled noir kind of tropes. These guys have some sort of altercation whose specifics elude me, and I know at some point, like, one of them whips out a gun and tries to shoot the other, maybe. Or maybe, like, I tried to talk them down. Anyway, some of them die, I guess, and according to the wiki, one or the other can die, or both can die. I don't know which ones died, but based on the way that this sort of works out, which is that I am, like, coming up to this deal in the city alone, it seems like both of them died. I'm not sure how, if they, like, shot each other, or if I killed one of them. But if one of them survives, and I think actually maybe if both of them survive somehow, you can get them to go with you, because this is something about a Kim deal. Like, there's some sort of Kim deal going down, and I am ambushing it. So I go up to these people who are on the street, sort of without any, like, context in my memory, start talking to them. One of them, the one who's not a ghoul, he's, like, really confrontational. They want to know where, like, one of the other guys is. And I am just like, well, I don't know. Possibly dead. This makes them angry, and they start shooting. So I have to kill them all. Except for the ghoul lady, who is unkillable at this point. She just, like, does the thing where she, like, collapses, right? So she survives. I have to shoot everyone else. And then she tells me, like, she begs for mercy. She's like, no, please, like, if you spare me, I'll tell you where Murawski is keeping his, like, Kim plant, right? Like, his hideout. So I guess this is, like, you know, the big wig in terms of the drug trade here. And it's very funny because as I'm having this conversation with her, there's, like, a stalled out, like, rusty pile of vehicles behind this whole scene. And during the firefight, a bunch of them got shot, so they're, like, on fire and exploding.
What?
Yeah, like, they're just, like, exploding behind her, and, like, no one is reacting. Like, Eleanor and this ghoul woman, her name is Trish, they're just, like, having a normal conversation while, like, a semi-truck explodes, like, 6 feet to their left. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, tell me about this. So Trish tells me that Murawski has his Kim operation based in a fishery called, like, the Four Leaf fishery or something in South Boston. There's, like, a whole series of laser tripwires set up around it that you're supposed to trigger in a certain order to open the secret entrance to the Kim lab.
What?
But she, in exchange for her life, will help me out here. She will just give me the password for his terminal that will open the secret entrance. And I'm like, yeah, sure, give me that. I don't really know why I want that, because, again, I've kind of, like, lost all context for this thing. But she gives it to me, and then I head over to South Boston to the fishery. It's swarming with ghouls, so I have to kill a whole bunch of ghouls. And wouldn't you know it, there is a whole bunch of tripwires. Like, they look like laser mines, but they don't blow up when you walk through them. So I guess you're supposed to, like, hit these in a certain order, and that will unlock the secret entrance. But I just go up to the top of the building and find the terminal. I put in the password. It opens up a little door. I go in, and it's basically like the clear kind of, like, aesthetic comparison or whatever is like a meth lab. Because there's just all these, like, Kim sets around. The people in there are wearing, like, hazmat suits or, like, the radiation suits. They immediately start trying to fight me. I slaughter them all quite easily, and then I sleep on one of their mattresses on the ground. There's just a whole bunch of Kims here that I could take and, I guess, sell if I wanted to. But that's, I guess, the end of that quest. Like, I got a whole bunch of Kims.
Why are there so many secret entrances? And I had to do a secret entrance quest.
Mm-hmm.
I go and find a different thing quest. I don't understand why that entered into, like, the mechanical lexicon for this game specifically.
It's notable. I feel like I have encountered a lot of secret entrances in Fallout 4 specifically.
I just don't know.
And that wasn't, I'm like thinking back now. I don't think that was the case even in Fallout 3.
No, No, it was like, do a thing, open a door.
Uh-huh. And I don't even think it's like explanatory to like look to the Bethesda fantasy lineage either, because I don't feel like those show up in the Elder Scrolls games all that often.
No, I can't think of any. So like, and the reason I bring that up is I like did public knowledge. Have you, did you do this quest?
I don't think so.
I think you just get it from from picking up an unreturned book or an overdue book for the library, and it's just going to the Boston Public Library, and somewhere in between getting the quest and going and doing it, I like stored my book or something, so I didn't even do the quest. I just got to the library and like had to clear out some super mutants to get there. But there's like two separate what do you call it, like areas that you can get to. You can get to it from the side of the building. I think there's a key, but you can also go down to like the train stop below the library and then come up from the bottom. So it's just like there's multiple entrances to the thing, and like depending on the way you take to it, there's kind of a secret entrance. There's another quest I did later that actually has a like secondary entrance to it. That quest is probably I probably encountered the most Fallout thing that is in Fallout 4 that I've seen so far. And this, it made me think, oh, hey, what if all the parts of it that are kind of Fallout-y, that are in this whole game, what if just none of them are in the main quest? Like, that's what this entire, like, I think I played for like 2.5 hours or 2 hours, something like that, just kind of dooting around the map and doing stuff. What it kind of suggested to me is that there's plenty of, like, quote-unquote Fallout DNA, right? In this game. None of it is in the main content that we've played.
I think that's a maybe fair observation. I have similar feelings about some stuff. And
so, let me just say, so this is public knowledge is the quest. I didn't complete it because I'm not sure what you do to complete it. So, because I didn't have the book and I was like, I'm just going to do something else. But, so I went through the train stop and the door is locked to get into the library because it's like an employee entrance or something. And there's a little intercom there and you can click on it and it's like, you get a robot voice and the robot voice says, the library is closed. And you go, okay, whatever. But then you can, and it's like employees only. But you can select, I'm an employee. And then you can lie, basically. And it's the most like Fallout, kind of closer to Fallout 2, I would say, but original to Fallouts, because my character Tonk just said, because they're like, please say your password. And the voice performance is really funny, because he's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the thing is like, welcome, Mr. Mayor. It's really funny. It's just, it's a short gag, right? It's like a one-line gag, but it's a really funny gag, and the voice performance actually sells it really well. And that's definitely like, a speech check of some sort in Fallout 1 and 2. Like, it's so close in tone. So I was really impressed by that. And I went in the library and it's full of robots that are protecting the library, but I couldn't really do anything with them. So
okay.
Yeah.
My second quest that I did here was called Curtain Call. And it's like a quest that happens in the town, like in Boston. If you're close to Trinity Tower, you get a radio signal. You've probably picked this up. Did you do this quest?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we've did anything that was remotely similar. I mostly did quests that are around the periphery of like the Northern Arc. So,
okay. Curtain Call happens in town. One of the skyscrapers, Trinity Tower. If you listen to the radio signal that's coming there's like a guy on the radio who is just like, my goodness, I believe the super mutants are coming to eat me. Please come save me. They're coming through the door. And so I listened to this and I'm like, I'm going to show up and this guy's going to be dead. I don't know what else is going to happen, but those super mutants ate him. So you just go to this tower and you go in. I think he gives his name. His name is like Rex Goodman, I think. And you go into the tower and there's some super mutants who have made it their base. And then there's one named Fist who is talking to you over the PA system. And he's like, oh, another human drawn in by Rex. And I'm like, yeah, okay, like they killed him, and Rex's like recording is being looped or whatever, being used to draw in humans for whatever reason. So I fight through floors and floors of super mutants. This is kind of a thing that I've done before in this game, although I don't think we've talked about it, just because it's kind of just been like a thing I've done while I've been exploring and grinding and trying to level up, because there are a couple of places that don't seem to have quests associated, but are still kind of like the same sort of setup. Eventually I get to like the tippy top of this skyscraper, and I think it's up here that I kill Fist. But then, and there's like no plot to it, right? Like when we think about Fallout DNA, one of the things that would have happened in like an earlier version of Fallout is that definitely I would have gotten to the top, and then like I would have been able to have like dialogue with the head super mutant. But no, I just get up here and he's like a named leveled boss or whatever. So I shoot him and I kill him. And then I run by what turns out to be a prison cell. And I only know this because I completely ignore it. And then I hear like a little guy's voice. He's like, wait, come back. Aren't you going to help me? And I'm like, oh, it's that guy. He's actually alive. So I turn around and there's Rex Goodman. He's like this, sort of middle-aged man in like a little snappy little suit and everything. And I've also up here found like the radio studio that he was recording from or whatever. And again, in a previous version of Fallout, I think I would have been able to like talk to him and say like, hey, who are you? Why are you here? What happened? But he won't talk to me. All I can do is open his cell door, at which point he comes running out and like whips out a gun. And he's like, okay, let's fight our way down. And then there's like a super mutant in there too, named Strong. And Strong comes out and starts like hollering all this stuff about bleeders and whatnot. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Who, like, I mean, I can reverse engineer this easy enough. Like, there's some sort of super mutant situation where, like, they put Rex in a cell, and then I guess Strong made them angry in some way, so they put him in a cell with Rex, but, like, no conversation about it. And as a whole bunch of super mutants like come up, we have to fight them, and then there's like an elevator that you take down the side of the skyscraper. And in the kerfluffle of all the new super mutants spawning in, I think Rex dies or disappears. I don't know. He's gone. And I go over to that elevator and I hit the button and it starts descending and it teleports in Rex and Strong from wherever they were. They just like pop in beside me in the middle of a conversation. And Strong is quoting Shakespeare. He's talking about like the milk of human kindness. And then Rex has to explain to me, because of course Eleanor was a lawyer and not a Shakespeare scholar like Michael, that milk of human kindness is a reference to Macbeth. And Strong seems to be really focused on it. And this is when Rex explains like what he was up to, which is like he came to Trinity Tower, which was known to be a place where super mutants lived, in order to teach them Shakespeare so that he could civilize them.
What?
Yes, right. Michael, the Shakespeare scholar, is here, like, tripping all the alarms. Like, this is a
screaming, licking the carpet, just going wild, flipping up and down like a playing card.
Yep. This is an old idea, an old historical idea, and it's a bad one. This idea of, the forced education of various types of people who are quote unquote uncivilized in specifically the primary poet of British imperialism in order to then civilize them. So Rex, like, come on, like, unpack some of your assumptions here. But ultimately, it turns out that the super mutants did not care about Shakespeare, except for Strong, who became fixated on the line from Macbeth about the milk of human kindness, which he thinks is a real and literal thing. And if he can find it and drink it, and this is where it gets sort of confusing, he will become more cruel than normal super mutant. Like, this is somehow going to make him stronger, that if he can drink the milk of human kindness. We get down to the bottom of the skyscraper. We have to fight a whole bunch of other super mutants. And then I feel like because it would be remiss of me not to do this. I send Nick Valentine back to Sanctuary, and I take Strong as my companion to see how this works out for him. And he hasn't given me his special quest yet because he really hates most of the things I do. He's got a really weird moral compass. He doesn't like it when I lockpick things. Like, he hates it. He hates it when I steal. But he loves it when I'm kind of an asshole and maybe threaten to murder people.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, you gotta have a moral code. Uh-huh. Even the worst criminal has a moral code. Honor amongst thieves.
Well, like, it's just so funny because Strong is often saying things like, I'm hungry and I want to eat a human being. Like, those are the sort of, like, I looked this up. You can get the cannibal perk that allows you to, like, feed on corpses, and Strong loves that if you have that. But he gets angry if you pick locks.
Yeah, you got to be out and about about your evils. Uh-huh. You know what I mean? You can't, there's no lollygagging around your evil. You got to get in there. Well, does he have, like, a companion quest or something?
I'm hoping, but I don't know if I'm going to get his approval up high enough. And it also seems like, I was looking at the wiki, I don't know if he actually does. I don't know if there's something that I can discover in the wasteland where I could be like, yeah, Strong, that's the milk of human kindness. Now drink that.
Interesting. Yeah, someone, I think, I don't remember where, maybe in a YouTube comment or on the Discord, someone suggested that because the thresholds for some of these characters are so high for the quests, like the companion quests or whatever, that it might be worth just console commanding to start the quest. So that's a thing for us to keep in mind later on.
If I can get in another short story here about a quest I didn't do, it's related to that.
Yeah, please.
So I am absolutely on board with Nick Valentine and his companion quest. He loves me. And I mentioned last time that he gave me his companion quest, which is like, hey, here's 10 places on the map that have, like, things that I like. It's about his, like, pre-war life, because he's based on the mental architecture of a cop who lived before the war.
Yeah, I also received this quest during the middle of playing for this episode. And you're not kidding. I was like, oh, he's got to be exaggerating, right? Nope, it's 10 dutes on the map. and go to the dutes in order to find the gunkum, to kabloo your gur, to clonk your wah, to floof your boo, to then get Nick Valentine to be your friend.
Yeah, so I, like, went to the first one, and, like, it's like a dungeon. It's what this game has it over and over and over again. And I should also flag that it's like the recording material for, like, this episode and what I think is going to be the next episode is definitely, like, when I felt myself entirely run out of patience with the majority of Fallout 4.
Yeah. By the end of this, I was like, I don't enjoy, like, the moment to moment of playing this game, and I'll talk in a minute about, like, how I even tried to spread my wings a little bit on this stuff. But yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, because I, like, looked at it and I'm like, these are like 10 little Skyrim dungeons. They're all just, they're former police stations or whatever, but that really doesn't matter. I'm going to show up. There's going to be raiders in them. I'm going to fight through the dungeon. I'm going to get a little holotape. And I did one of these just to confirm. I got a little holotape, and it was so funny because it was, Eddie Winter, who is the crime boss that Nick was trying to track down, and I found some other stuff about him in other places. It's a recording of him, and some of the other stuff that I read on terminals in this place pointed out that Eddie Winter, and of course this is all pre-war, Eddie Winter was aware that Nick Valentine, the pre-war guy, was on the team hunting him, and had figured out who Nick was, like, his girlfriend. I think it was his girlfriend, maybe his fiance, but, like, a woman. Again, there's, like, hard-boiled noir stuff going on here. And Winter was clearly, like, putting the pieces in place for a plan to, like, kidnap her or, like, hostage her, or, do something to her in order to get at the actual cop who is tracking him. But the holotape from Winter is him talking to an assassin that he hired who is Russian. This matters for question mark reasons. It's just they make a very specific point that this assassin was Russian. it is just, it's, imagine, Cameron, you're a crime boss, right? You're like Tony Soprano. And I think this is, I saw this all the time when I was watching The Sopranos.
I'm doing this. I'm imagining it.
Often Tony, when he hired a hit on a guy, he would record a little tape where he said, "Hey, I'm the boss of the mafia. Good job on sniping that guy that I told you to kill. Eddie Winter, boss of the mafia, out."
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
That's
basically every time he did that.
Yeah.
Silvio had one.
Uh-huh.
Paulie had one. Many of these other guys, the guy's name I can't say on the show had one. All of them.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's perfectly normal and raises no flags. No, actually, it was just very funny to, like, here I found a tape, like, of the boss of the mafia just congratulating some hitman that he hired on being such a good hitman and, like, specifically naming himself. So, anyway, I did that and I'm like, I don't really want to do 9 more of these. I may do 9 more of them, but I'm not going to like make a point out of recording it just because I, want to get to the end of Nick Valentine's little quest line. But like, geez, crow, like that's so repetitive. 10 of these?
Yeah, 10. It's a lot. I had the same like emotional arc that you did when you were talking about, I think, in the last episode where I was like, well, that's some stuff I would need to do. I don't know when I'm going to get to that. Fascinating. I just don't. Yeah, I understand why this is like in the game because it encourages you to bounce around the map, and the games have always been pretty good about encouraging you to like bounce around the map a little bit. But I really at this point in Fallout 4, I'm thinking about the wonderful brevity of Fallouts 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like you go to like 9 locations and they all have their own little place and you do those 9 things and then you're done with the game.
Yep. God, those were the days.
You can do a bunch of other stuff if you want to. There's other stuff, but you don't have to. Yeah, I mean, but you can just like, content is like falling out of everyone's mouth, ears, nose, and butthole. You know what I mean? Like it's just flying out. Content everywhere. You can't clean it up. You got to get a mop. To get all that content in order. And I don't know. It's just like, this is not a space. Fallout 4 currently, as it exists, has not created a space that I want to just like spend time in. And it could be, I mean, this is it could be on my end, right? I guess is what I'm saying. Because I've played 1,000 hours of Fallout in the past 4 years.
Right.
Like I could just have too many reps in, right? I'm too muscly when it comes to Fallout. But it's the Skyrimification, right? Like I don't actually enjoy playing Skyrim that way either.
Right.
I streamed Skyrim, a year ago or 18 months ago, something like that. And by the end of that, it was just like, okay, I'm ready to be done. There's just not a lot of like experimental fun in there for me. And look, so this is a good kind of transition point because I did some stuff that people have been asking us to do. Okay. Number 1, I've played, I think, most of the last episode and all of this episode. So like another 2.5 hours in the suit. I'm in the power armor.
Oh. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, maybe is some of my like fatigue with this game and my sense of its repetition is some of that predicated on the fact that I am not using power armor, right? That I have like clearly deviated from some sort of design principle that they had in mind. Does the power armor make going to 10 dungeons in a row somehow more bearable?
Well, it doesn't. I don't know if it makes it more bearable. For me, it makes everything much faster. Like everything in the game goes more quickly because maybe there's an augment. I don't understand actually statistically what's occurring. Like not that I don't understand. I've not investigated why this occurs. I'm sure if I looked, I could figure this out. But basically everything that's not like a big important enemy dies in one hit with a melee attack with my super sledge now.
Right.
While I'm wearing the power armor. Nothing can get me down in health. I died, I think, one time. No, I died twice during this like 2-hour playthrough, and both were when I got out of the power armor and just walked into a mine I didn't see. So, it really, really gives you the thing of it. My, power armor is even breaking and stuff, and I just haven't bothered repairing it. And even still then, the HP boost and I guess the strength or endurance boost, I don't know what, numerically is going on here, but, the slight boost to stats that are happening here and damage resistance, it's actually the damage resistance, I think, that's so important. They're so substantial that it just makes everything go faster. I'm just walking through these dungeons and hitting super mutants 1 or 2 times, and they explode, and then I'm through the thing. So it makes everything go way faster, especially for a melee character.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it actually does. There's a little bit of that to it. But that doesn't make the game better for me. In fact, it does the opposite, which is if this can be trivialized by playing the game fundamentally in a way I'm not interested in playing it, why am I bothering to do this at all?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I know there's a meta reason for that, which is I make a show about Fallout.
Yeah.
But it does trivialize a lot of stuff where I'm just and not just trivialize in the sense of make it easy, but trivialize it in the sense of, okay, I go to place, I have power armor, I walk through very patiently and smash everything with a hammer, and then I am done. And that's it. It doesn't make the combat, for me, as a melee character, it doesn't make it more interesting. It doesn't make it more compelling. And I know that there are also, upgrades you can make to the suit. You can add stuff to it. So I have currently an upgrade that I haven't equipped, but I, have it in my inventory of, I think it automatically stim packs when you're below 20% health.
Oh.
Yeah, so, some stuff you can add to the suit that are basically perks, I guess.
Right.
But I have not gotten other stuff for that, and I haven't really figured out or investigated how you craft more of those, or do you buy them, or what. So I'm going to keep playing with the suit a little bit more, just to to sate the audience who are interested in what that difference is, and because this is kind of a major part of the game. But it does feel designed around it. I think your instinct that you were talking about a minute ago is correct. It feels like I am not just incentivized, but I don't know. It smooths the experience, I guess, is what I'm saying. It feels like this is hitting that quote unquote optimal rate of pacing.
Right.
Whereas, when I'm playing with melee and not in the suit, I'm dodging around corners and shit. It's actually tactically more interesting, although a lot more quick loads and stuff are involved. So I'll keep playing with it. I'll do at least a couple more, but it's not super exciting. And actually, it makes my playthrough harder because in third person, the game has no idea what to do. You're the full size of most corridors. And so it's just the camera's glitching in and out, and I'm in the ceiling looking down. And sometimes my character just disappears because the camera's been pushed into my model. So I'm not in first person, but not in first person. So clearly, these things were not kind of aligned with one another. So the way I want to play the game and the way the Fallout 4 is interested in me playing the game are a little bit different. I also did this. One additional. So I did that, which people have been asking for. So I did a little bit of that to get that experience. The other thing that I did that people have been asking for or kind of mentioning occasionally is part of Fallout just wandering around, and doing stuff. And here in the game so far as the quote unquote main quest path or whatever, we've been in a very small area. We basically walked one straight line from Sanctuary to downtown, and then we walked one straight line from downtown to the glowing sea. And that's kind of it, right? There's very little deviation from that in terms of where you go. And so I just walked a big arc. I walked all the way out to the Museum of Witchcraft. Just seeing what was there from where I'd been already. I saw some cool stuff. Have you seen the downed plane?
No, I have a quest for the Museum of Witchcraft and stuff that would take me up there, and I just have avoided that area therefore specifically because I figured we would do it. I mean, I didn't do it for either this episode or the next one, but I figured we would do it at some other point.
Yeah, that's my assumption too. I didn't actually do the quest. I just, because I had it marked on the map, so I just marked it and walked that way and unlocked it as a fast travel point. But yeah, there's a downed airplane up there that's really cool. It's just, Nick Valentine was with me, and the barks in this game, from at least Nick Valentine, are really cool, because he's he'll give you context for areas that you're in, and sometimes that's helpful, and sometimes it's just interesting. So, it's a big, like, crashed, kind of like 747. It's a huge plane, and it's like all in parts on the ground. And he's like, well, it doesn't look like the atomic bombs knocked this out of the sky. It looks like that highway did it. And you can look, and like the plane came down and crashed through the highway and smashed into the ground. So it's a really, really cool kind of open world scene. I saw a courser there who was just standing around in stealth. And I actually got to it because I was walking over the hill and I could hear gunfire, so I ran toward the gunfire. And so really cool open worldy stuff going on. And he was stealthing, so I just started smashing him. And I killed him. And then as soon as I killed him, they teleported in a bunch of synths.
Oh, wow.
I had to kill them too. Yeah, it was really neat.
Yeah.
It was a very Baldur's Gate 2, like if you fight the Athkatla Wizards Guild or whatever, they start teleporting in Baylors and shit. It was one of those. Yeah, it was cool. I thought they were going to like keep sending more, but they did not do that.
Yeah.
So other stuff I saw when I was just walking around the thing, I saw General Atomics Galleria. Have you been there?
I passed by that. I got like because I heard like there's like robots in the parking lot hollering, isn't there?
Yes. It's like a mini mall. It's like a circular mini mall, kind of like a carnival or whatever. And there's a big tower in the middle.
Yeah.
And the robots, I thought this would be a quest, but as far as I could tell, it might tie into something else later, maybe. But like, what's there is not really a quest. You can basically just say like, yeah, I'm the manager. And they're like, you are. Oh my word, you are 249 years late. I can't believe it. And that's like funny. It's good stuff. It was real Fallout stuff. And you go in there and there's a guy who's called like the director. And he's like a messed up Mr. Handy, or he's a Mr. Gutsy, I think, actually, because he's green. And he's been like telling them what to do for 250 years. And you can tell him you're the manager and you're there to open it up. And then you open up this mall and maybe you can buy stuff there or whatever. But there wasn't more like questy stuff to do. So I wandered off. And that's like a really fun idea, like the mall operated by robots who just want the manager to show up. But it's also just like, well, and they also say there's been like 45 like fake managers who have showed up, presumably who they've killed or whatever. And it's like such a fun thing, but it really just feels kind of like plopped in the middle of nowhere. I don't know. It has the feeling of like across the world map, like random event, that you could find in Fallout 1 and 2.
Right.
But because this is not an abstracted space, it feels very odd to see it just plopped in the middle of nowhere. The last thing I found here, and there was a grand prize for being the manager. Oh no, I'm sorry. The manager has to give out a grand prize for the grand opening. And it's $15. And we know that like hyperinflation was destroying their economy.
Right.
and so it's just like no amount of money, that's a really funny joke. In the thing. The last thing I kind of saw there is when I got toward the Museum of Witchcraft, maybe there's some other quest involved here too for later on or a side quest, but I found these guys named Mikey and Moss, and they were arguing about whether or not anything you put between two pieces of bread is a sandwich. And it was like being in hell.
Yeah.
They have a long conversation, and the guy's like, so you're telling me a loaf of bread is a sandwich? And the other guy says, well, you wouldn't eat it all at one time, would you? It's like that level of like whatever.
Feels really Fallout 1, Fallout 2. In that it's like...
It does.
Right? Yeah. Like here's you have stumbled upon some people on some tile somewhere, and they are having a conversation that is a joke conversation that is intended to be funny to the player because it is a like circuitous or like weird echo or reference to a thing that is happening in like real life discourse. In the earlier games, it would have been like about Star Trek or something, and here it's about Twitter debates.
Right. Like in the far future, people will continue to have these terrible conversations. Weirdly enough, here I like blew up or something. I died in some way. Like walked over another landmine and died, or I can't remember exactly what happened, but I died, so I had to reload and like re-walk from the robotics facility to here. And the second time I did it, I found like Mikey and Moss, and then there was like a cow, like a Brahmin running around, like with the trade caravan stuff on its back, and its name was Idiot, like its marked name. And then there was a guy named, I didn't write it down. He was a doctor. He's like Italian doctor.
What?
Like Italian, like a strong Italian. He goes in The Sopranos too. He's like Italian American doctor. That's not his name, and he's running around, and they're all shooting this massive like rad scorpion. That's like a legendary blah blah rad scorpion. So we all thought that, like, all of these random characters who were unrelated to one another, because this doctor's like a traveling doctor on a trade caravan. Mm-hmm. And we all just slay that. And then he's like, let me fix you up. He's like, you know what I mean? Like weird Boston Italian-American doctor guy. Deeply unclear about what's going on here. And so it was a fun moment of like, yeah, like it's a little sandbox. And like sometimes stuff happens. Mm-hmm. And I kind of wish this stuff happened more, because I wandered across the wasteland for 30 minutes. And this was the only kind of sandboxy, weird thing that I experienced. So that was some of the stuff of just like walking across that arc. And so I can say, in a general sense, like, there's more, and people were right, there is more kind of traditional Fallout, big quotation marks, right, than maybe we've experienced so far. And to me, it's mostly because it's just not on the main quest line. Mm-hmm. It's kind of scattered everywhere else. They really seem to expect you to do that other stuff.
Yeah, so my last quest felt very, quote unquote, like traditional Fallout in an odd way. Very much like it felt like a Fallout 1 quest. It's called Pull the Plug, and it's very close to Sanctuary. And that, because I found it very close to the beginning of the game, I was poking around in the wilderness up there, and I stumbled upon this flooded quarry. And there's a dude there named Sully Mathis, who wants to like set up shop in this quarry for something. Like, you can read his terminal, and he's like, if I had the right crew, we could hold this down, blah 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 blah. But the problem is the quarry is flooded, and he has sort of fixed the machinery such that he could pump it out, but he doesn't want to, because he keeps hearing sounds down in the quarry itself. And so my thinking, like, I have these moments of having played a lot of video games, having played a lot of Fallout games, I can see the skeleton of what kind of quest this might be. And it turns out that I'm wrong. So this is what ends up being really interesting about this. What I think is going to happen is I'm going to pump the quarry or something, and then I'm going to have to venture into some mine shafts or whatever, and I'm going to have to fight Mirelurks, probably Mirelurks, right? Because it's a bunch of water. What lives in the water in these games? It's Mirelurks. And so I'm going to have to I'm going to help him pump out some of this water, but then I'm going to have to go get something, and I'm going to fight a bunch of big crabs for it, blah 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 blah. But how I fix it actually ends up being really simple. I just jump into the water, which is highly irradiated, so I put on my hazmat suit. And there are just 3 pipes, sort of at various points around the quarry. And you can see bubbles in the water, and you just go over, and there are little yellow valves that you turn. And you turn them, and then you hop back up, and then you hit a button on a pump, and then he's like, all right, cool, we're good to go. I also want to say here that the quarry looks really cool. It's, as an environment, it's very, very striking. You see it, and if you've never seen a quarry in real life, I have the same response to them in real life, because you just see this huge hole in the earth, and it is so clearly not natural, because very often things are being mined out in rectangular chunks, right? So you see sort of this very non-natural looking rock formation where people have just been taking square chunks of rock out, and it gets progressively deeper. And here it's filled with water, so it's huge, right? It feels huge. There are all these little walkways going up to the surface and all this stuff. So I'm like, this is really interesting. I'm wondering what they're going to do here. So I start up the pump for him, and then I sleep for a day. And when I wake up, the quarry is fully empty, and there's a whole bunch of raiders hanging around. And so my thought was, like, after it was clear that I wasn't going to go into the cave, well, first of all, I thought maybe I would still, like, have to go into some caves and fight some Mirelurks after the thing drained. But my sort of picture of how this ended was that he was going to, like, you know, set up a little encampment here, and basically I could come back every so often and get some crafting materials, right? That's kind of where I thought this was going. It's like something that I need for my settlements. If I ever need, like, extra granite, I can, because I've done this quest, I can drop by and talk to Sully and he'll give me granite for helping him out, whatever. But no, I, like, sleep for a day, wake up, and it's just crawling with raiders, like, all over the place. So Strong and I fight these raiders. And then this is also really cool because now that the thing is drained, like, you can come up to the edge of the quarry and, like, look down and, like, see the bottom. And it's, like, very, you know, staggered and vertiginous. It looks cool, right? It looks like, you know, eldritch or hellish or in this weird way. And very slowly we, like, fight our way down because you have to kind of, like, you know, slowly circle down to the little path that's been carved into the quarry itself. And we fight all these raiders, and we get to the bottom, and Sully's there, and he's like the leader of the raiders. And then we have to kill him. And then that's it. I killed all the raiders. So this feels like when
Sometimes you think you need a scalpel,
yeah,
but you need a hammer.
Like, so, you know, all of the sort of, like, thoughts I had about what this quest was versus how it ended up were really, really interesting. Because on the one hand, it feels like it subverted my expectations, right? I thought it was going to be one thing and it was another. And it feels very Fallout 1 and 2 in that this feels like something, like especially Fallout 1, that I could have just, like, run into this while traveling across the wasteland, you know, like, hit it as a random encounter on a tile. And I can even see, like, in my head how the quarry would have been rendered in, like, you know, the isometric perspective and how that would look and all that stuff. And it also feels like those older games, because of how thin it ends up being, where it's just, I helped this guy, and it turned out, I guess he was secretly a raider leader, and he just wanted to take over this quarry and hold it down. And they also have a bunch of pins in the bottom where they're keeping Mirelurks. So, I don't know, some question mark plan there, but there's no other information about this and nothing else to be gained. And it's a pretty big and unique space for this to have played out. So this, like, raises another question that I've had at various points throughout this game. And relates to other discussions we've had about sort of the thinness of the way that a lot of it is written, is that sometimes this game feels like it was, like, not quite finished. I don't know, like, I know that can be, like, a fraught sort of assertion, and I don't even know if that's true, right? But because I don't know anything about, like, or rather, I don't have the sense that, like, production around this was rushed. But there is a lot of stuff that I encounter in this game that feels like this quarry, like, this feels, you put so much work into building and designing this set piece, and then nothing happens with it. Like, maybe it teaches me a lesson about the hard realities of the wasteland, that you might help a person who turns out to be a raider who's just going to try to shoot you later. But if that's the case, then it is in no way kind of reinforced or echoed by anything else I've done in the game up until this point. It feels like there was almost supposed to be something else that happened here, and then eventually it was morphed into, oh, okay, it can just be like a little, like, different style of raider dungeon, so that we have the location, we have these characters, some of these recorded lines, some of these mechanics, but we're not going to be able to follow through on the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, hard to know. You know, I would actually, my assumption is that this game was hard to make in a lot of ways, right? And also because there's kind of a major tech jump that happened here, and it was coming out for a new set of consoles, right? This was their first game, Bethesda's first game for the Xbox One, PS4 stuff, right?
Yeah.
Is that true? Because Skyrim was on the previous generation?
Yes.
Or developed initially for the previous generation. So,
and will be on all future generations, has in fact worked its way backward. There's Skyrim on the NES now.
Right, on the Atari, on the ZX Spectrum. The Nimrod machine plays Skyrim somehow.
There's an oscilloscope at MIT that plays Skyrim.
Right. It's in the lab. You've seen it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. My assumption would be just like, and again, not having done a huge amount of research in the development of this game, is that probably like the world tech was pretty hard to figure out and make happen. And, I've got a machine that is like well above max specs, and I even get like weird pop-ins sometimes still. So, games are made with tape and scissors, and sometimes they don't fall together. I feel like this is a game where you could spend an infinite amount of time like making all the pieces, equivalent to one another or something. And, they just didn't have time or didn't choose to do it. And also, I don't think this game had a world update kind of thing, right? Like it didn't have a broken steel that just kind of like built out the world a little bit. It was actual discrete DLCs to them. And so I imagine that after the initial launch passed, there might not have been the opportunity to go back and kind of tinker with some of that stuff. So I don't know. If people know more about, if there's a good resource about the development of Fallout 4 that you could point us to, like an article or a talk or something like that. I mean, I've watched a few and seen a few, but around this kind of thing in particular, I'm not, I'm not super educated.
Yeah. No, it was striking to me because of, you talk about the tech jump there, and I think that's a good thing to bring in, because when I say it reminds me of Fallout 1, that's also part of what I think it reminds me of, is that like so much of Fallout 1 felt like people figuring out how to make a game. Like, we're going to give you kind of the barest sketch of this location and these characters and like what you can do. But it, as a document, it feels like people figuring things out. And then Fallout 2 is very much like paying dividends on the stuff they figured out in Fallout 1.
Right. And yeah, it's also 10 people.
Right.
Like the Fallout 4 team's what, like 150 or something?
Something, yeah.
Realm. And, there's also like open world design, quote unquote, like best practices have changed. With this Assassin's Creed book I've been working on, I've done a lot of reading about like what was happening in the like 2010, 2011, 2012, as far as like developing those best practices. And so looking at, there was a lot of conversation about like Grand Theft Auto plus Assassin's Creed plus Bethesda style games, and like how do those things speak to one another? Because what unifies them is this kind of open world gameplay, sandboxy kind of stuff. So there's all this like weird stuff that comes out of that. That's like, I'm forgetting the exact term for it, but every X amount of time or space, depending on what studio is working on it, you need to have a thing that is worth looking at, right? You need to have a thing that is interesting to check out. You need to have some form of interaction. And so there's a kind of way that, and I've talked about this on a bunch of shows, right? That like spatial design determines pacing in a lot of ways. And so is it more important to have the pacing work out than it is to have an in-depth quest? Yeah, kind of, right? Like it might be more important for the quarry to be in a specific location than it is for it to like have echoing content that kind of, narratively pays off for someone. And so just like a whole different like set of mechanisms for thinking about, how it works. And this is also like why I my eyebrows go up when, there's all this discussion of like Elden Ring is the anti-Assassin's Creed or whatever, right? When it's like, you pick up an Erd flower like every 11 feet. You know what I mean? There's like you can watch the math problem happening in front of you to keep your interactions up. Like come on now. But in some ways I wonder about that, right? Is the quarry just an Erd flower, right? Like is it more just about that being there than it is about hooking it into other stuff? Right. And there's compromises I think you make on the things that we like the most about games. Those things have to be kind of shift or compromised or changed in order to get the other thing that they, user metrically know does something for play patterns and stuff like that. So, yeah. Is that the last quest you did for this playthrough?
Yep, that was the last one.
Well, so I did two other things. I actually did way more quests, I guess, like discreetly, but kind of only two like things within those. So I did a few Minutemen quests that I just had kind of sticking in my thing, and it's, are those side quests, or are they actually Minutemen stuff? Hard to know, right? I mean, I guess they progress that plot line, but they are all discrete and kind of unrelated. So I went to the Abernathy farm and did this quest called Returning the Favor. You go to the Abernathy farm, you talk to these people, their daughter was killed by raiders, you go to a raider dungeon, you go down into the dungeon, you kill raiders, you get the locket that was stolen from her body, you go back and turn it in. Like, it's not complicated, but then they join the Minutemen, and there's some good dialogue with these people, that you just have a conversation about, like, what is it like to live in the wasteland? And they're like, I'm a farmer, and I'm a farmer and raiders, they just come and take stuff. They don't believe in doing hard work, so you get a little bit of that granularity there. There's a cool interaction with, I forget his name, but the kind of patriarch of the Abernathy farm, and he's like, because his daughter had been killed by raiders, and you can be like, yeah, I know what it means to lose a child. And it's like, oh, yeah, but you literally lost one. like you lost a quarter, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have it anymore. Not, it was murdered in front of you. Quite different. But this is also when Nick Valentine gave me his side quest. But that's interesting, and it kind of gives you some interesting stuff about how this is the kind of work you have to do in the wasteland to, like, get people to join one another.
Right.
I know it's a shorthand too. It's the same thing as the peasants, or whatever they were called, the proles from Fallout 1 and Shady Sands. But it is so funny to me. You go to these, like, subsistence farms that are apparently, like, going to Diamond City and trading and doing all this kind of stuff. And, like, look, like, the way that this world is set up, there's no world in which these people would be going to Diamond City from where they are. But whatever, right? I'm not too critical. But again, I understand the visual shorthand, but you see these families of people, and there's 4 people there, and they grow like 12 tomato plants or whatever. And it's just like, you would all be dead. This is not enough food. Like, you need like a full acre per human per year. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Just the sheer amount of subsistence living. You must be eating radioactive dirt to stay alive. That's the only explanation. Also this thing about Nick Valentine's quest. In the previous episode, did you note or did you talk about the fact that the mob boss, Nick Valentine, asserts that he turned himself into a ghoul proactively?
I did not get into that because I wanted to talk about it in case we revisited that quest. But yes, that is a hell of a thing that, like, somehow Eddie Winter knew about ghoulification ahead of time and, like, planned his response to nuclear war accordingly.
Right, which is also, like, aren't the ghouls another effect of FEV? Are they not related to one another? Or, like, one of the I forget the name of the weapons company that we go down into in the glow in Fallout 2. Or Fallout 1. I don't remember which name it is.
That wasn't Poseidon.
It's one of those, right, that just never comes up again.
Yeah, Poseidon is the energy company. That's the weird thing. I mean, this is Fallout all over, especially those early games where it is extremely unclear what is a result of, like, radiation, quote unquote, and what is a result of FEV somehow being, like, dispersed willy-nilly throughout the world. We talked about this in the Fallout Bible episode where Avalon ends up using FEV as kind of like a way of explaining away all the wacky aspects of Fallout, all of the, like, retro future giant insect stuff. That's not radiation. That's FEV. Right. And the Bethesda games have been a lot cagier about locking down causality there, I think.
Right. Yeah, so maybe I am back implementing. Look, that's the allure of Fallout, is that, once you're given an explanation, you just go, okay, all right, finally. Finally, there's a reason for these things to happen. Anyway, so I did that, and I did the Starlight Drive-In quest, and then I did a quest called Old Guns, and these are all Minutemen quests. Old Guns is pretty interesting, because there's this older woman named Ronnie Shaw, who's like... she's a real hard ass, older lady, and she's like, I was in the Minutemen before you were born, which is funny because No. I was born 250 years ago or whatever. And she's just this like, she's Ardley Ermy, but what if she were like an old lady?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And she's just talking about, the previous general and how the Minutemen fell before. And basically you got to do a little quest to help her. It's back at the castle and you got to help her open the armory, which was closed. And this has one of the more interesting things that I've experienced in Fallout 4 because the tunnel, the door to get there is locked. It's like a big metal like pressure plate or like just plate that's like kind of held against the wall. And she's like, well, but there's a second entrance, but we got to go through this rubble, and the rubble is clear or has blocked the passageway. And so we go to the passageway, and lo and behold, there's rubble. So I had to use the workshop. Like the to do the stuff, like to do base building.
Right.
And clear the rubble with the workshop thing, like interface. Isn't that, I mean, isn't that an odd thing to use this kind of like meta system that no one acknowledges to do a quest objective of clearing rubble?
Well, yes, that's very odd, but also, like, we had to do that for Brotherhood of Steel, right? When they're rebuilding Liberty Prime, they were like, all right, now open the workshop and start, like, building things so we can...
Yeah, but that was like building objects, you know what I mean?
Right.
It was like putting stuff together. I don't know, it just felt like what I'm shortcutting here is like a bunch of people with shovels for 15 hours.
Right.
As opposed to what I'm shortcutting is like me welding for 15 hours.
Right.
Like the intellectual leap there to me was like, is different.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is different. It is interesting to me that there are at least these two aspects of folding the workshop system into non-like workshop-y quests. And it is much funnier, honestly, the situation that you've wandered into. It's just like, well, you're the one person in the entire wasteland who can teleport slabs of stone away with their mind, so get to it.
Yeah, but yes, that's what it feels like. And of course, we like built the teleporter thing too earlier, but also that feels different. Like to me, building and teleporting, steel with your mind feels different. But anyway, so I did that, and you go down in there, and it's basically what's occurred. You discover this at the end, but what's occurred is that the rubble closed off the end on the day that the Mirelurk Queen first attacked the castle, so when the castle fell. And the I'm looking at his name. Hold on, give me 1 second. General McGann, who was my predecessor, because I'm the general of the Minutemen.
Right.
General McGann goes into the armory and like closes the door behind him in order to like get ready. To like prep stuff. And then the other passageway collapses. So he believes that the castle is being attacked by not by Mirelurks, but by super mutants. And so he is worried that people are being killed. He like hears people dying and whatnot. And so he goes, oh my gosh, we are being killed by super mutants. I need to fortify the armory because the worst thing that could happen is that the super mutants would come in here and take all our ordnance and then attack people with it. That would be very bad. So he blocks the door, and he mines the entirety of the interior of this place. There's mines everywhere.
Yeah.
And then he turns. They have a sentry bot whose name is Sarge.
Aw.
And he turns Sarge into kill everything on sight. But here's the thing. This is the interesting thing about it. Is that if he had just gone in and gotten the guns and come back out, they would have been able to kill the Mirelurks. He basically, it seems like to me, and they don't connect the dots up here. This is another moment like you've been talking about where there are these inferences that if you make it slightly more interesting. It seems to me if he'd gone in and gotten, there's a fat man in the armory, right? There's all these big guns.
Right.
If he'd gone in and gotten those and just gone back out and started shooting the Mirelurks, they would have kept the castle. None of this stuff would have happened.
Right.
But he locks himself in, he has no food, and he's mined his only exit out. And it's better for him to die there than it is for him to, let the super mutants in. Again, there's no super mutants. It's just the Mirelurks. And he says, someone's banging on the door outside. And he's like, oh, yes, it must be the super mutants. And that could have just been people.
Right.
Like, trying to get the armory.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get him to open the door. So, it's unfortunate. And then he drinks himself to death.
Dang.
He drinks wine, and he drinks Amontillado. Right. Ha, ha, ha. So, I don't know. It's this kind of tragic story, and it's like, well, it seems like this dude being kind of misreading the situation here might have actually caused the downfall of the Minutemen in a general sense, but you do all that kind of stuff. It's very funny because you go in and Sarge is there and it's the sentry bot like booting up and she's like, uh-oh, it's Sarge. Sarge, he's always protected us. And I just sprinted up to him in my power armor and started smashing him with a hammer. And he like exploded and is in this giant ball of flame. The thing you get after this is you get the ability to do artillery strikes in the wasteland. Yes, you set up an artillery, and you're encouraged to set up artillery at different locations. At different Minutemen outposts that you set up. Because they only have a certain range. So like it gives you an incentive to be like, okay, if I want to be able to use artillery, I need to go. I need to work with this group of people. I need to set up a base there. I need to, install artillery there. I need to assign a subsistence farmer to using the artillery. And then they will be able to, put in my coordinates and shoot super mutants for me. So at this point, I believe I have the ability to summon Minutemen with flares. I have the ability to artillery strike people from the sky, and it's huge explosions. It's like Fat Man explosions coming from what looks like orbit. I have the ability to summon a vertibird that will come and attack people, and I think I have the ability to summon synths as well from the Institute with a grenade. So they've really like if there's a like ultimate attack, that is like this game is designed around. These are it, right? These like open world interventions. I don't really use them all that often, and I'm going to start trying to now since I have so many of them. I think I've got 15 flares to summon the Minutemen now.
Right.
So I could just be using it all the time. So yeah, that was it. And I ended up bombing because there's a little quest you have to do to learn how to use the artillery. And I ended up bombing the little candy shop that I met Preston Garvey in to take back the castle. So. Everything comes back where that person got stuck on the door.
Yeah.
So I did that, and that was the thing. The other thing I did, just really briefly, is a quest called Disappearing Act, which is one of Nick Valentine's, detective quests. Have you done any of these yet?
I haven't, I don't think.
They're interesting. I like Disappearing Act. I think it was notable. This one is just, hey, someone disappeared. And he disappeared and wasn't, it's not like he disappeared and came back, which would be like synth stuff, right?
Yeah.
He just disappeared. No one knows what happened. So everyone just believes the Institute took him. But one of the, the Russian brothers who own the shop or the bar, he used to be the assistant bartender. And so they're wondering about him, what happened. So I went and did that. And you just do a little detective quest. So I walked over and got the key to his apartment, and I talked to his boss a little bit. And I went to his apartment, and I wandered around, and I found a receipt for facial reconstruction surgery. I didn't really figure out why he wanted to get that, come to think of it. But so then I went to the doctor, that's the little location that allows you to get facial reconstruction surgery to change what your character looks like. They're just hanging out there. And I'm talking to the doctor, and he's like, yeah, it's Dr. Crocker, I think. It's Dr. Sun and Dr. Crocker, Dr. Soon and Dr. Crocker, I think.
Yeah.
And the one is there. Dr. Crocker is not there. And he's the person who, has apparently, he wrote the receipt for Earl. And so I'm talking to him, and he's like, yeah, the other guy, Crocker's not here, blah, blah, blah. I look around. On the ground, there's a big blood stain.
Uh-huh.
And it's leading to the basement hatch, beneath their doctor's office. And I say, hey, what's that? And he says, we're a doctor's office. There's blood everywhere. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And so I'm given some options. I can do some checks here, some dialogue checks, or I can just bribe him, to say, hey, let me in your basement. I'll give you 100 caps. I give him 100 caps. I go into the basement. Doc Crocker is there. The basement is and reminder, this is underneath a baseball stadium.
Right.
The basement is a rock room that looks like it's from Fallout 1. You know what I mean? It's got that craggy, purple blue, like bulbous rocky stuff all around. And so it's like a hand dug basement down here. We're down there. Doc Crocker is here, and he's wearing like the wildest goggles. And there is someone who has been, like when the limbs all fall off of a character in Fallout, and it's just like their weird torso bouncing around.
Oh yeah, no, I've got I think 2 things in Bloody Mess, so that happens not infrequently when Eleanor is shooting people.
Right. So there is a body there that looks like that. It's just the weird torso part. And he turns around and goes, hey, I see you're not supposed to be down here. I've got it. He's going to come back to life any minute now. He's like, he's totally fine. I'm good. And basically what's happened is that Doc Crocker did the facial reconstruction surgery and somehow in that experienced some sort of mental break. Potentially because he just killed the guy. He killed Earl rather than doing facial reconstruction on him.
He actually took some levels in Bloody Mess as well. So when the scalpel touched the guy during surgery, he just exploded.
He just blew up.
Yep. It's like the dangers of living in the Fallout world.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yes, maybe. Like that's as much of an explanation as anything else. This again feels like an earlier Fallout quest where it's just like, and you go down there and you talk to him, and there's a couple options. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it feels like I'm almost certain we did something just like this, or very close to this, in Fallout 1, where you found out a guy was, like, one of the doctors in one of the settlements had a little secret basement where he was processing corpses and, like, serving them up as iguana bits or something. Do you remember this?
Yes. Yeah. Dr. Bob's, I think.
Yes. Something like that, yeah. So anyway, continue, right? That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah, but no, he should basically just be in the basement operating on this person, trying to, quote unquote, bring them back to life and just carving pieces off of them, it seems like, on that, and like not recognizing it. And you get some interesting things. It's like, and this is, again, the stuff you were talking about like the dialogue system, like the checks, in terms of like charisma, persuasion stuff. Where it just totally falls down, because I'm like, and like what I want to do, like RP wise, right, is like, well, you clearly have something bad has happened to you. You made a mistake. Something bad has happened. We should probably turn you over to like security, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what that's Tonk's role here, right? It's like, you've made an error. This is someone else's problem. Mm-hmm. And you can be like, hey, you're under arrest, buddy, and he's like, nah, I'm killing you. And then you just murder him. Or I only had that option out of like 4 dialogue options. It kind of threw me into the only solution is murdering this guy. What's really funny though is that previously I'd gone past like a foundry where I fought like a different faction of like people with flamethrowers and stuff. Basically the people from the pit are here. Right. In like one foundry or whatever. And I fought a bunch of them kind of on accident in the sense of like I was just walking by and they attacked me. So I had and I was trying to run, but Nick Valentine wouldn't come with me. So I had to fight them. And during that fight, Nick Valentine picked up a flamer. And so this doctor comes at me and Nick Valentine just lights him up, literally. Just obliterates him. And so then the other doctor, after the fight's over, the other doctor comes down and goes, what happened? So it turns around to Tonk, and I'm not wearing the power armor at this point because it was such a confined space. I wanted to take the power armor off. And I'm not wearing the power armor, and it just cuts back, and Tonk right behind him is the charred and flaming corpse of this other doctor. and I'm just like, he had problems. Like I can't believe it. He was doing bad stuff to this guy, and so it was a great moment of like the reality of the game versus the fiction of the game, smashing into each other in a very funny way. But anyway, that's the last quest I did for this. I also got a quest from this guy named Edward Deegan, who's like a ghoul in combat armor. Oh yeah, he works for a mercenary or some sort, or crime lord maybe. Yeah, but I didn't pursue that. I just got it.
Yeah, I think I've talked to him too, and I thought he gave me a quest that didn't show up in my little log here. So I don't know if it got filed under the weird little miscellaneous thing. But I've definitely talked to him too, and there was like some sort of lead there. To look into later, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's like to some crime mercenary guy. So maybe I'll go check that out. But yeah, that's what I did for all the side quests. So kind of accidentally or not accidentally, but in doing side quests, did Minutemen stuff, but I feel like that's not going to interrupt anything later on. Yeah. What are we doing next time?
Next time we're doing more side quests.
We're doing, we have decided, do you know the names of them off the dome?
Yeah, so we're going to head back to Vault 81 and do whatever we can find there. We didn't spend a whole lot of time in Good Neighbor, so we're going to go back to Good Neighbor and poke around and see what side quests we can get to fall out of that. And then, there's a little settlement called Covenant that I've passed before that I put on as our third option just because it's up near the top of the map. I stumbled upon it early in the game, and it seems like something that we could have done earlier, right? In the course of organic play, might have done that if we weren't kind of doing this show in the way that we were. So we're going to go up and see what's going on in Covenant.
Yeah. So we had this more robust side quests episode where we're just doing random stuff to kind of get a better feel for the game outside the main quest, and then the next one will be a little bit more traditional, Too Much Future. We're doing the exact same side quest, and we'll probably have maybe 2 more of those before the end of the season, or 1 more of those. Weirdly enough, I think we are at the break point for the main quest, meaning that we could silo off, and we're not very far from completing the game, I think, for most of the factions at this point. So we need to make our decisions about our factions, and then we'll go from there.
Yep.
Cool.
All right.
Well, that's it. Is there a catchphrase?
That's it. War never changes, but Fallout sure does.
Woohoo!